everyone. Welcome again to another episode of The Wise Fool. It's great to have you here with us. This is Miki, and today I will be telling the story of the Ogre's Bride. In the days when ogres were still the terror of certain districts, there was one in particular who had long kept an entire neighborhood in the grip of fear without anyone daring to challenge his tyranny. By thefts and by heavy ransoms from merchants too old and tough to be eaten. In one way and another, the ogre had become very rich, and although those who knew could tell of huge cellars full of gold and jewels, and yards and barns groaning with the weight of stolen goods, the richer he grew, the more anxious and greedy he became. Day by day he added to his stores, for though, like most ogres, he was as dumb as he was strong, no one had ever been found, by force or fraud, to get the better of him. What he took from the people was not their heaviest grievance. Even to be killed and eaten by him was not what they feared most. A man can die but once, and if he is a sailor, a shark may eat him, which is not so much better than being devoured by an ogre. No, that was not the worst. The worst was this: he would keep getting married. And as he liked little wives, all the short women lived in fear and dread. And as his wives always died very soon, he was constantly courting fresh ones. Some said he ate his wives, some said he tormented them, and others that he only worked them to death. Everybody knew it, and yet there was not a father who dared refuse his daughter if she was asked for. The ogre only cared for two things in a woman. He liked her to be little and a good housewife. Now it was when the ogre had just lost his 24th wife, within the memory of man at least, that these two qualities were joined in the daughter of a certain poor farmer. He was so poor that he could not afford properly to give his daughter a dowry on her marriage, and so she had remained single. Everybody felt sure that managing Molly must now be married to the ogre. The tall girls stretched themselves till they looked like maypoles and said, "Poor thing!" The poor housekeepers gossiped from house to house, the heels of their shoes clacking as they went, and cried that this was what came of being too neat and careful. And sure enough, the giant came to the father as he was in the field, looking over his crops, and proposed to take Molly there and then. The farmer was so much put out that he did not know what he said in reply, either when he was saying it or afterwards, when his friends asked him about it. But he remembered that the ogre had invited himself to supper at the farm that day week. Managing Molly did not distress herself at the news. "Do what I bid you, and say as I say," said she to her father, "and if the ogre does not change his mind, you shall not come out empty-handed of this business." By his daughter's desire, the farmer now procured a large number of hares and a barrel of white wine, which expenses completely emptied his slender money-box, and on the day of the ogre's visit, she made a delicious and savory stew with the hares in the biggest pickling tub, and the white wine was set on a bench near the table. When the ogre came, Molly served up the stew, and the ogre sat down to sup, his head just touching the kitchen rafters. The stew was perfect, and there was plenty of it, for what Molly and her father ate was hardly to be counted in the tubful. The ogre was very much pleased, and said politely, "I'm afraid, my dear, that you have been put to great trouble and expense on my account. I have a large appetite, and like to sup well." "Don't mention it, sir," said Molly. "The fewer rats there are, the more corn. How do you cook them?" "Not one of all the extravagant women that I have had as wives ever cooked them at all," said the ogre, and he thought to himself, "Such a delicious stew out of rats! What frugality! What a housewife!" When he broached the wine, he was no less pleased, for it was of the best. "This must have cost you a great deal, neighbor," said he, drinking to the farmer as Molly left the room. I don't know what rotten apples could be better used, said the farmer, but I leave all that to Molly. Do you brew at home? We give our rotten apples to the pigs, growled the ogre, but things will be better organized when she is my wife. The ogre was now in great haste to arrange the match, and asked what dowry the farmer would give. I should never dream of giving a dowry with Molly, said the farmer boldly. Whoever gets her gets dowry enough. On the contrary, I shall expect a good round sum from the man who deprives me of her. Our wealthiest farmer is just widowed, and therefore sure to be in the hurry for a marriage. He would not grudge to pay well for such a wife, I'll warrant. I'm no churl myself, said the ogre, who was anxious to secure his thrifty bride at any price, and he named a large sum of money, thinking, we shall live on rats henceforward, and the beef and mutton will soon cover the dowry. Double that, and we'll see, said the farmer stoutly. But the ogre became angry and cried, What are you thinking of, man? Who is to stop me carrying your lass off without with your leave, or by your leave, dowry or none? How little you know her, said the farmer. She is so firm that she would be cut to pieces sooner than give you any benefit of her thrift, unless you dealt fairly in the matter. Well, well, said the ogre, let us meet each other. And he named a sum larger than he had first proposed, and less than the farmer had asked. This the farmer agreed to, as it was enough to make him prosperous for life. Bring it in a sack tomorrow morning, said he to the ogre, and then you can speak to Molly. She's gone to bed now. The next morning the ogre appeared, carrying the dowry in a sack, and Molly came to meet him. There are 2 things, said she, that I would ask of any lover of mine. A new farmhouse, built as I should direct, with a view to economy, and a feather bed of fresh goose feathers, filled when the old woman plucks her geese. If I don't sleep well, I cannot work well. That is better than asking for finery, thought the ogre, and after all, the house will be my own. So to save the expense of labor, he built it himself, and worked hard, day after day, under Molly's orders, till winter came. Then it was finished. Now for the feather bed, said Molly. I'll sew up the ticking, and when the old woman plucks her geese, I'll let you know. When it snows, they say the old woman up in the sky is plucking her geese, and so, at the first snowstorm, Molly sent for the ogre. You see the feathers falling, said she. Fill the bed. How am I to catch them? Cried the ogre. Dumb! Don't you see them lying there in a heap? Cried Molly. Get a shovel and set to work. The ogre carried in shovelfuls of snow to the bed, but as it melted as fast as he put it in, his labor never seemed done. Towards night the room got so cold that the snow would not melt, and the bed was soon filled. Molly hastily covered it with sheets and blankets, and said, Pray, rest here tonight, and tell me if the bed is not comfort itself. Tomorrow we will be married. So the tired ogre lay down on the bed he had filled, but do what he would, he could not get warm. The sheets must be damp, said he, and in the morning he woke up with such horrible pains that he could hardly move, and half the bed had melted away. It's no use, he groaned. She's a very managing woman, but to sleep on such a bed would be the death of me. And he went off home as quickly as he could, before Molly could call upon him to be married, for she was so managing that he was afraid of her already. When Molly had found that he had gone, she sent a messenger after him. What does he want? Cried the ogre. He says the bride is waiting for you, was the reply. Tell him I'm too ill to be married, said the ogre. But the messenger soon returned. He says she wants to know what you will give her to make up for the disappointment. She's got the dowry, and the farm, and the feather bed, groaned the ogre. What more does she want? She says you pressed the feather bed flat, and she wants some more goose feathers. There are geese enough in the yard, yelled the ogre. Let the farmer drive them home. The farmer, who overheard this order, lost no time in taking his leave, and as he passed through the yard, he drove home as fine a flock of geese as you will ever see. It is said that the ogre never recovered from the effects of sleeping on the old woman's goose feathers, and was less powerful than before. As for Molly, being now well dowered, she had no lack of offers of marriage, and was soon wed to her content.